Hi, I'm Daniel Lucas, and welcome to Book 101 Review. Book 101 is all about the books that I read for the last 40 years. And today I have my special guest. He is the author of the upcoming book, Becoming Epic, none other than Mr. Matt Kutz.
Daniel, great to be here.
Welcome, Mr. Matt. And can you please introduce more about yourself that I missed?
Sure. So, my name is Matt. I'm a professor at Florida International University, and I also do a lot of leadership development and leadership coaching. And I've been involved in the leadership making space for over 30 years, and it's a very strong interest of mine. So, most of my books and ideas center and frame around aspects related to leadership.
Yes, people, Mr. Matt also a speaker and of course award-winning author. And thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world. Hoping for more and more award-winning piece, Mr. Matt. So today let's talk about becoming epic. The subtitle calls epic is a remedy of mediocrity. What does mediocrity look like in our daily lives, and why did you feel it was a condition that needed such a direct antidote?
Yeah, great question. For me, mediocrity is the thing that keeps people from succeeding in the different things that they try to do. It affects you in your marriage, it affects you in your relationship, it affects you at work, it affects you in parenting and other societal interactions. And it's a real pandemic problem, I think, that allows us to believe that just not being the worst at something is okay. And I believe that's a real problem. I think we need to strive for goals to where we're always trying to improve and always trying to be the very best we can be. And one of the things that I've noticed throughout my career, again, 30 plus years as a professor, working with college age students, teaching in doctoral programs, doing a lot of leadership development coaching, I have found that there's a pandemic in people's thinking that says as long as I'm not the worst at something or the bottom of the list, I'm okay. At least I'm not as bad as so and so. And I think that type of thinking is incredibly problematic because it stifles creativity, it stifles innovation, it causes an over the top comparison of ourselves to other people instead of just doing whatever it is we have in front of us to the best of our ability.
Mr. Matt, the acronym EPIC is so powerful. What is the starting point of the book, or did the four pillars are come first and then find their perfect summary?
Yeah, so the book starts out identifying the problem of mediocrity and why mediocrity needs the remedy, as we just talked about. And then I go into the four pillars of what a person can do to overcome mediocrity. And the first thing is be excellent or practice excellence. And that's so important because it starts with this idea that I can do better than I currently am doing, even if what you're doing right now is good enough. A lot of times we are doing good enough. I'm getting my job done. My boss isn't on me. They're not complaining. I'm doing my work. So we just do things just enough to keep our bosses and our managers off of our back, so to speak. And we have to start with that because, again, that's the mindset we're trying to defeat. We want to embrace the spirit of excellence, and everything that we do needs to head that direction. The other remedy to this mediocrity then is once we've conquered the idea of being excellent, and there are obviously several things we need to do that. But once we do that, then we shift to what our perspective is all about. And that P is perception, because our perception is dramatically impacted by our perspective. So we change our perspective, and then we change and then we see differently or perceive differently. And perception is so important because we have to learn to see more accurately what's going on around us. When we suffer from mediocrity and believe that mediocrity is all I need to do, we stop paying attention to what's actually going on around us. And the person who overcomes mediocrity really strives hard to develop their perception. And they do that, I believe, through something that I call 3D thinking. And 3D thinking is just a really quick a way to explain the three dimensions of time. And everything we perceive needs to be filtered through three lenses of time: hindsight, which is how the past is seen; insight, which is how the present is seen; and foresight, which is how the future is seen. We have to filter those things and get a proper lens on those three dimensions of time to perceive correctly. Then we move from that to the third pillar, or third component, which is inspiration. And again, somebody who has to, or somebody who needs to overcome mediocrity, has to be able to generate inspiration from within. So often, in fact, I believe too often, we look for inspiration from outside of ourselves. And yes, for sure, there are inspiring things outside of ourselves, and we need to learn to perceive those. But when those things aren't there, or I'm in for writer's block, or I'm in some kind of funk or something like that, we have to believe that we all have a spark within us that can also ignite inspiration. And we have to learn how to find that spark. And then the fourth part of becoming epic and overcoming mediocrity is learning to practice compassion. And this needs to happen on two parts. It needs to happen on our external relationships with the people around us in our community. We need to learn to be more compassionate than we are. And then we also need to learn that compassion from the internal perspective has to do with doing the things that seem to be difficult for us at the time. Now, you might say, well, that's an interesting take on compassion. But if we unpack the word compassion, it's basically made up of two Latin words, com and passio. So compassio is combined to make compassion. Com means to walk alongside of or to walk with, and then passio means pain or suffering. So when you really unpack the word compassion, it really means to walk alongside of or become or engage with pain, suffering, and grief. So when we externalize that, it means, yes, be a companion, be someone who walks alongside of someone suffering and in grief. When we internalize it, it means we have to be willing to walk with our pain and suffering and grief. And in other words, do the hard thing. And I believe these three pillars, or maxims, you could say, are things that we need to practice in our lives so that mediocrity doesn't prevent us from achieving all the things that we were designed, meant to achieve, and the desires and purposes of our hearts.
Many books focus on one of these pillars. What was the breakthrough moment when you realized that excellence, perception, inspiration, and compassion had to work together to create lasting change?
Yeah, great question. And the reason these four are required has to do with the fact, like you mentioned, excellence alone isn't enough. We have a lot of people out there, for example, who are pursuing excellence and going after excellence and wanting to do the best that they can. What I have found is it's not possible to do or be excellent well unless these other three aspects are also in play. Because some people will reach a ceiling and they'll wonder, hey, I can't do better than I'm currently doing. I'm already at the top of my game. How can I continue to grow, continue and improve? Because what is important to understand is there is no such thing as achieving excellence to the point where I don't need to do it anymore. I don't need to grow anymore. I'm already perfect. And of course, we know nobody is perfect. What prevents you from moving past your current ceiling, I believe, are these other three things. And to be excellent or epic to the way we need to, if you start to learn how to perceive differently, perceive more fully, and perceive more accurately, that enhances your excellence. If we learn how to generate inspiration, not only for ourselves, but for the people around us, our excellence is also increased. And then, of course, if we learn to be compassionate to others and to ourselves, to do the hard thing, then our excellence also improves. So I believe that excellence as the first pillar is what drives the entire book and my entire framework. But a lot of times we come up to obstacles to our excellence, and it's where these other three pillars come into play. So these three, I really believe, need to be practiced together, and then the outcome is an improvement in your excellence.
Diving deeper into the four pillars, Mr. Matt, in a world of hustle culture, how you define excellence in sustainable way that does not lead to burnout?
Yeah, also a fantastic question. And I spend a lot of time in the first few chapters on excellence, talking about the difference between excellence and perfection and perfectionism. And I think a lot of people, myself included, for years kind of use excellence and perfectionism or perfection as interchangeable terms. And we think that, well, if I'm going to be excellent, then whatever it is that I'm doing has to be perfect. And I have come to learn that that is completely false and wrong. And the biggest lesson I have on for the deeper dive into what this really looks like is first understanding the difference between being excellent and being perfect. And I say it this way in the book: perfection is not possible, but excellence is. And when we understand that we're taking perfectionism off the table, what you find is it gives us the freedom to be excellent. And here's the key phrase here: through an iterative process, because excellence doesn't happen the first time. Excellence is an iterative process. In other words, you generate something, you edit it, you refine it, you iterate it, you try it again. You're back to the drawing board. And most people think, well, if I'm doing that, then I'm not being excellent. But I describe excellence as a journey and a process that you're continually taking. I say it this way: there's many people out there who live by the axiom, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. I believe if it ain't broke, it's because you haven't messed with it enough. And I believe that's what drives excellent. An excellent person believes that they can always be better. See, a person who's striving for perfection believes that there is a ceiling, that there's an end, and that this one perfect thing can't be improved upon. So they're starting with a false mindset and a false framework right from the beginning, because they're thinking, I could only need to do so much to reach this level of perfection and then I'm done. And that's just not the way it is. Excellence, on the other hand, is driven by the philosophy or the presumption that no matter how good I become, or no matter how good the outcome is, it can still improve and be better and be better. And when we live by the spirit of excellence, as opposed to the burden and curse of perfection, we can actually live a trajectory that always leads to improvement. And then, of course, if we make a mistake in that process, it doesn't mean we failed. It means, okay, I regroup, I try again, and I'm always moving forward toward excellence. So excellence is a journey, it's a behavior, it's an attitude. It's not a flawless product, as many people, I believe, falsely believe.
You argue that we can change our reality by changing how we see the world. Can you share a personal story where a simple shift in perception dramatically altered an outcome for you?
Yeah. So my own story includes, battling cancer. And this book actually came from a diagnosis with cancer. And it was during my 40 days of radiation that I actually wrote this book. And I don't want people to think I wrote the book in 40 days. I got the crux of it done then, but it took some time after that. However, that was a major life changing perceptive and perception shift. And, one day, one moment, I'm healthy, I'm fine, no symptoms, no side effects. I'm one of those cancer patients who just didn't have any reason to believe I had it. I had no symptoms, no side effects, no anything like that. I was doing fine, training for a triathlon, in fact, was very active, healthy otherwise. And all of a sudden, I have this disease that I have no control over. And when you get diagnosed like that, I tell people it felt like, I was one of the characters in the Scarlet Letter. I felt like I was wearing this scarlet letter on my chest, and that everybody could see that I was suffering through this thing. And what I realized was my perception dramatically changed. What was important no longer was as important. What wasn't as important became more important. And that's what I mean by a shift in perception because of your perspective. My perspective before cancer was I'm in good shape. I'm healthy. I'm invincible. I'm never going to die. Everything's fine. I've got plenty of time. All of those things we assume. And then all of a sudden, within a few moments of time, that perception or perspective completely switched and flipped to where now I realize all of those things aren't true. I'm not invincible. I do have a finite amount of time. Things that there's too many things I've been wasting my time on instead of the important things. And it was from that learning moment that I realized I've been settling for mediocrity in certain areas of my life as well because I wasn't as bad as so and so. And I needed to change that. So that dramatically changed. And you talk about outcomes. So, for example, my productivity has went up dramatically since my diagnosis. I've launched a new business. I've launched a foundation, a prostate cancer awareness campaign. My wife and I run a nonprofit called Battle for the Balls to raise money for research and prostate cancer awareness. I've written 2 new books, this one included. I've written another one called Diagnosed, which is kind of a story about the prostate cancer journey and battling with a good, healthy frame of mind despite the pain that you're in. And so the productivity's gone up. My focus is sharper. The things are more important, and the quality of my life, believe it or not, has improved since that time till now. And that's, I think, a great example of how perspective changes your perception.
Mr. Matt, as a professor, speaker, award-winning author, what are your short-term and long-term goals?
Short-term and long-term goals. Well, short-term goals is to turn this becoming epic book into a bestseller. And I hope your listeners will help me with that. My long-term goals, I hope this isn't too tongue-in-cheek, but it's serious at the same time, is, as I mentioned, I'm battling with cancer. I'm in the middle of treatments and things now. I've got a great prognosis, but my long-term goal is to turn this distraction and this painful moment in my life into something that other people can use for their benefit, for their growth, and turn it into something that people can remember. They don't have to suffer. They don't have to settle for the things that they're currently in. But if they can just change the way they see the world and become epic and exercise these 4 pillars, they can change. And so I really would like to start a movement behind this idea.
Movement. Good luck to your goals, Mr. Matt, and hoping that you will be cancer free soon. And tell us, what will be your piece of advice for those people out there who want to be like you?
Piece of advice is work hard. And I mean this with all of seriousness. Is when I talked earlier about iteration, I think so many people think or believe that people write books, earn PhDs, become speaking consultants, etc., because they have a special skill set or a special grace or something that somebody else doesn't have. The reality is you can achieve your goals, get to where you want to be, aspire to be like some of your role models if you will embrace the process of iteration. Try, reframe, try again. Reframe, try again, reframe, try again. And those incremental steps really can end up being significant for you down the road.
Yes, people, try and try until you succeed. And can you please recommend a book or books that influence you, Johnny?
One of my favorite books that I always like to recommend to people is one book by Benjamin Hardy called Be Your Future Self Now. I love that book. I think it's a great book. It helps you perceive foresight and use foresight a little bit better.
Thank you for that recommended book, Mr. Matt. And in writing Becoming Epic, did you have a revelation about one of the pillars that even surprised you, changing your own understanding of what means to be epic?
Yeah, for sure it was the concept of compassion. As I was doing the research on this and studying this out, I never would have thought or never did think that true compassion manifests when I am willing to walk alongside of my own pain, grief, and suffering instead of expecting someone else to come to my rescue for that or ignoring those things. So the whole concept of compassion was a big mind blowing revelation for me.
The book suggests that becoming epic is not just for personal gain, but it's a ripple effect. How does working on ourselves ultimately become a service to others?
So I believe that when we become better, the people around us become better. I liken it to John Maxwell's law of the lid. If I only have a certain capacity that I can do, then everybody who I am in relationship to, especially those people who look to me for any kind of leadership covering or anything like that, they are never going to be able to exceed my lid that I have set. So I always need to improve myself because I don't want someone around me not to reach their potential because I haven't reached my potential. So I think it's critical that we understand in order for the people around you to be better, you must continue to improve yourself. It's just it's a law of leadership and we can't ignore it.
If you could have every reader embody just one lesson from becoming epic, what would you want to be?
I would want it to be that they realize how they perceive the world is much more limited than they actually believe. So many people think or believe that they see more than they actually do. And because of that, they make statements, they make claims, they make absolute statements that simply aren't true or very ill informed. And one of the things that I believe an epic leader does is they understand that there are so many other and different perspectives that are valid that they haven't considered yet. So it ties into the pillar of perception. And I believe that we really need to understand there are more things to be seen and realized about the situations we find ourselves in than we think or realize.
What's the most common misconception about being epic that you hope your book corrects?
For me, the most common misconception has to do with the idea that mediocrity in and of itself is an okay place to live. And it goes back to even what I said at the beginning. There's just this mindset that I think is destroying our cultures, our societies, that says, I don't have to be the best that I can be. I just have to be better than the person next to me. And I believe it is that thinking that is really dangerous and actually keeps people and communities and societies and teams and organizations from really being the influence and having the impact that they can.
Mr. Matt, before we wrap up our discussion for today, I'm inviting you to please do listen to my other podcast, people, my other podcast, because my abstract essay is already in fifth season, abstract poetry in second season, and my book 101 review in fifth season too, comedy 101 in second season, and Food 101 in fifth season as well. Geography 101 in fourth season. I'm a baby podcast. Law 101 and Mental Health 101. Love Letters in third season. And Movie 101 review and Music 101 in fourth season. And Science 101 and Sex 101 in its first season. Please listen to them wherever you listen your podcast. So, Mr. Matt, now that you build this framework, what next? Is there a future volume, a workshop, or a movement you hope to build on the foundation of becoming epic?
Yeah, my goal is to turn this into a workshop, and I'm currently working on a side by side companion workbook to go along with this for small group discussions, for corporate training, and for team development.
Mr. Matt Kutz, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world, hoping for more and more empowering epic to come. So, can you please invite our listeners to support all your books, especially this upcoming Becoming Epic?
Thank you. And the best place to find that and information on that would be my personal website, which is matthewkutz.com.
Yes, people, let's support Mr. Matt Kutz because if you support him, for sure, more and more empowering epic books like this to come. So, Mr. Matt, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Daniel.
More to come, people. See you soon.